Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Magnus Nielsen, Lord Londonstone. I'm back. I've moved slightly. I'm now at Piccadilly Circus, and just to show you, I'll now switch this camera around and you will see the statue of Eros right in the centre of Piccadilly Circus. I'm not going to talk about Piccadilly Circus at the moment, I'll do that for another video. But while we swing round here, you've got Piccadilly itself, and again I'll talk about Piccadilly on some other occasions. But what I would like to do now is talk a bit about Regent Street, and especially Lower Regent Street and the area that we call St James. And as we walk down Lower Regent Street, you'll see in the distance the Duke of York's column. You've seen that already, but from the other side. So this is Regent Street, and it was named after George, the Prince Regent, who assumed the regency in 1810 after his father, George III, had a nervous breakdown and had to spend the rest of his reign in Windsor Castle, where he died in 1820. So George was the Prince Regent until he became King George IV. Over here on the right hand side, ladies and gentlemen, is Jermyn Street, and again that would take in another video, so I shan't do that on this occasion, but just to show you where it is in relation to Regent Street. And we'll just make our way further down here as we go along. So Regent Street is the backbone, if you like. It's the axis of the West End of London. It's where you get all the quality shopping. And Piccadilly Circus is really the centre of shopping and entertainment in the West End of London. Today is Wednesday, the 5th of November, firework night, in the year 2025. And the reason I've come out here is because it's still dry and it's relatively bright. In fact, very much like the weather we had yesterday. But as we make our way down here, we come to Waterloo Place. Now, the idea of Regent Street, it was created by John Nash, the famous architect that was commissioned by George, the Prince Regent. And the Prince Regent, had a palace further down here, which has since been pulled down when he moved into Buckingham Palace, but you can see where the column is, and Carlton House stood in Pall Mall, just a little bit further forward, and that was the home of the Prince Regent, and that's eventually the place which was demolished when when Prince George became King George IV, and then eventually moved into Buckingham Palace. And then the column was created for the younger brother of George V. And Waterloo Place celebrates the great military victory of the Duke of Wellington at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. Now, Regent Street, which as I said was the creation of John Nash, most of it has been pulled down, sad to say, and replaced with very much larger buildings in the Edwardian Baroque style. But the sum of John Nash's architecture still remains right at the very end of it, and we're going to have a look at that. And we'll also have a stop to have a look at some of the monuments and the other places of interest that I can also talk about as we come into Waterloo Place. Here, over on the right hand side, we have an old-fashioned telephone box with a telephone in it, which is quite unusual. You hardly see those these days. Perhaps people still use them. Right, now then, as we make our way down here, we're in Waterloo Place, and what you can see over on the left-hand side is the monument to the soldiers who fought in the Crimean War of 1854 to 1856. And that was a war between Britain and Russia. Russia had invaded Moldavia and Wallachia. Those are provinces of the country we now call Romania, in an attempt to spread into the Balkans, and that was very seriously resisted by the French, and then the British supported the French, came in and supported the French and declared war, because it was an attack at that time on Turkish territory. The Turks were the masters of Moldavia and Wallachia at that time, so we came in against the Turks with the French to fight the Russians. That was the whole thing about it. And this is the monument to the soldiers. So that was one of the few wars that we had between the Battle of Waterloo and the outbreak of the First World War. And it was noted for a great deal of administrative incompetence. It was discovered that the soldiers were sent out to fight without any proper boots, so they decided they would send boots to the Crimea to help the soldiers. And they sent all the I can't call them left-handed boots, but the boots for the left feet went out in one ship and the boots for the right feet went out in the other. And the ship carrying all the boots for the left feet sank, which is a bit of a shame. Anyway, you can also see, and that's worth pointing out, the statue of Florence Nightingale. Now, Florence Nightingale was the lady who set out to organise the nursing profession. She wasn't so much a nurse herself, although she did some nursing, but she was really a brilliant administrator, and she organised other nurses, and she raised the nursing profession into a professional standard. That's what she did throughout the world. So this is what Florence Nightingale is noted for. Right, we're going to cross the road here, and we can't because we've got a red light. Oh no, we've got a green light. That's nice. Let's take advantage of it while we've got it. Otherwise it may not come back again for a while. Thank you. And here we are. We're in still in Waterloo Place. Across the way you have the Institute of Directors in a building designed by Decimus Burton, who was a pupil of John Nash. And here, over on the right hand side, let's just show you, we have a club called the Athenaeum, which was a gentleman's club set up for gentlemen with scholarly interests. And there is the statue of Athena, the Greek goddess of wisdom. If you look very carefully, you'll also see just underneath the roof of the building the frieze, which is copied from the marbles that were taken from the Parthenon and are found now in the British Museum. So this is the door to the Athenaeum. Coming down here, over on the left hand side, we have the Mount. This was set up, this was a horse block erected by the desire of the Duke of Wellington in 1830, so he could get on his horse without difficulty. And there, over on the left hand side, you have a statue on horseback of King Edward VII, the son of Queen Victoria. And the thinking at the time was they were going to completely reorganise what we now call Piccadilly Circus and rename it King Edward VII Square, and that statue was going to be right in the centre. But the money ran out, or the First World War started or something like that, and they decided they wouldn't do that anymore. And so this is the grounds, ladies and gentlemen. We're now standing on the grounds of what used to be Carlton House, which was, as I say, the home of George, the Prince Regent. And it was all knocked down, and a lot of it went off, that could be salvaged, was taken off to Buckingham Palace, which was being rebuilt. And the only part of Carlton House that you can now see is the front of the Natural Gallery, the portico. That's where they have the column. So that was taken off for the National Gallery. Okay. Now, down here we have a statue. No, we haven't got a statue. Hang on, we've got a Greek inscription. An inscription from Homer, which translated from classical Greek into English means come inside and have a glass of wine. Here, over on the left-hand side, we have a statue to Air Chief Marshal Sir Keith Park, 1892 to 1975. He was the defender of London in 1940. Air Chief Marshal Sir Keith Park commanded Number 11 Group Fighter Command, which defended London and South East England successfully during the Battle of Britain. Responsible for the hour-by-hour decisions of the 11 Group, New Zealander Keith Park epitomises the role played by those from Commonwealth and other Allied countries alongside British forces in saving the nation from invasion. So that is Air Chief Marshal Sir Keith Park. Let's move on, because there are some other interesting memorials along here which are worth talking about. Down here, over on the right, we have a statue dedicated to the man Sir John Franklin. Sir John Franklin, 1786 to 1847. He fought in the Napoleonic Wars and in the War of 1812 against the Americans. And he was a naval man. He attempted to find the Northwest Passage. They used to believe that it was possible to enter the Pacific Ocean if you sort of sailed around the north of Canada. That turned out to be a complete and utter fallacy, and the ship itself was stranded in the ice floes, and Franklin and all his men on board died. Sad to say, that was in 1847. But anyway, they put a statue here to commemorate his heroism. Now, as we go further forward, we have another statue here of a man called John Fox Burgoyne. Here he is, Field Marshal John Fox Burgoyne, born in 1782, he died in 1871, erected by his brother officers of the Royal Engineers. Now he again had quite a long, distinguished military career. He served in the French Revolutionary Wars and then also in the Peninsular Wars. The War of 1812 that I've just mentioned, the war against America, and then in the Crimean War. So that's his statue up here. As we go forward now, number 9 Carlton House Terrace was once the German embassy during the 1930s. So this is where Ribbentrop and the other Nazis had their diplomatic headquarters in London at the time. This is number 9 Carlton House Terrace. So we'll just move round here, and there's something rather interesting I'd like to show you as we do this. The German ambassador buried a dead dog here, or he had a favourite dog called Giro, and you can see the grave of Giro just underneath the tree, and there's a little tombstone there saying what a true companion he was. But anyway, that's the grave of Giro, the dog of the Nazi ambassador to the court of St. James. Okay, well, we'll go round. Oh, hang on, while we're here, what we can try and do is see how far we can see up this column. This is the Duke of York's column, ladies and gentlemen, from the ground all the way up to the top. In theory, you could get inside. I've never known anybody go inside, but there's a spiral staircase. Now here, over on the right-hand side as we turn round, we come to the statue of John Lord Lawrence. Now he 1811 to 1879. He was the Lieutenant Governor and the Chief Commissioner of the Punjab, that's in India, and eventually became the third Viceroy of India. So he was a very distinguished man, erected by his fellow subjects, British and Indian. Right, move on. I'm coming down here now. Oh, there's another one. Colin Campbell, Field Marshal Lord Clyde. There he is. That's his statue here. And then, at last, down here, over on the right, we have the statue of Robert Falcon Scott. Robert Falcon Scott, who was born in 1868. He was a naval man, really. What he did was led an expedition to the South Pole in 1912 in competition with a Norwegian called Amundsen to get to the South Pole. And eventually he arrived at the South Pole. It was on the 17th of January 1912, only to discover that Amundsen had actually got there about 5 weeks earlier. So after that he then had to stagger back all the way across Antarctica, and he and his men all died as a consequence. But anyway, that statue is there set up to commemorate his bravery. So here again you can see another view of Waterloo Place, and here again perhaps you get a better view here of the Athenaeum, and a better view of the column. Right, what I'll do here, ladies and gentlemen, I've got other things to talk about, but I'm just going to pause here. I'm going to actually sign out temporarily, and then I'll come back and we'll have another look at some of the places of interest around here. So I'll say over and out for the time being. Oh, by the way, please like and subscribe and leave any comments down below in the box.